It's really fascinating. I mean, the first thing that strikes me is to the fact that it's even considered there's like a side for liberty. You know what I mean? Like it's such an interesting framing. I think it says a lot that so many people even saw the past few years under like any type of sort of left right split or liberal conservative or this or that, because it's not something that inherently really sort of should be that way, right? Like there's this sort of funny irony. Like I had conversations with people, I was traveling, I managed to keep on traveling throughout most of it. But I remember having conversations with people, I mean, even to this day, who are like, oh, my mom is super liberal or my sister is super liberal and, she's pro lockdown, pro mask mandate, pro vax mandate. And I'm like, is that super liberal?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like by any proper definitions of words, why should someone who calls themselves a liberal be in favor of forced face coverings and forced injections and locking down of businesses and human, like these are all completely anti-liberal ideas. And it's so strange how the words and language we use has kind of it's all been kind of mixed up. It's weird because supporting that stuff is sort of neither liberal nor conservative. I just call it authoritarian because that's really what it is. And we've kind of reached this strange situation where in many aspects, conservatives are more liberal than liberals on many things. I mean, the same goes with freedom of speech, same with, all the stuff that we saw. I mean, even the skepticism around big pharma and giant corporations and big tech and all that, like traditionally it would have been the left that is opposed to giant corporations and is skeptical about big pharma and so on. Even people who were like genuine anti-vaxxers tended to be more left-leaning in the past, as far as I'm aware. And we've gone through this strange inversion and reversal on all these different issues where I think we're at a point now where people don't even really know what any side is standing for. It's not super clear to me. And it sort of differs from country to country. Of course, I'm from the UK, so the left-right split is kind of seen differently. The words liberal and conservative are used differently. But I noticed in the US for sure, there's a lot of talk about, the left and the right, the left and the right. Things are very much kind of framed in this binary. But it's definitely not that simple.
Yeah, and I think that, especially that it happens more in the US, you could see it in how people on both sides are getting programmed. Like, for example, I'm sure you've seen the meme of all the left-wingers out for Occupy Wall Street, and then the banks just put like a rainbow flag on it, and all of a sudden like those same liberals are marching with the banks.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's like that. It is that easy to trick these people now. You give them a Trump, and then you convince them to take illiberal views that are insane, literally insane. And they don't even realize it because they're more attached to the narrative of politics, which was seen when there were op-eds being written during George Floyd. And the lady was like having this moment. I remember reading, it was New York Times or one of these mainstream articles. And she's like, I'm not sure why I support all these people out in the streets because I really didn't 2 weeks ago. And she was like grappling with the fact she was a total hypocrite, losing her mind. And then on the right too, I think so many right wingers, all they do is dunk on the left. That's like, they almost like the left makes fun of the right to feel better about themselves. Sometimes the right does that to the left. And I noticed that so many people over the last year or two have gotten so intellectually lazy and their thoughts and their ideas don't actually make sense anymore because they've spent so much time just opposing the left. So if Donald Trump does something that if Hillary did, they wouldn't like, if DeSantis did, they wouldn't like, if Mitch McConnell did, they wouldn't like, they don't see it as I have my own perspectives and it's okay to just realize that he failed me there or whatever. They're like, I feel like I have to make an excuse for something I don't actually believe because my loyalty is with this guy and this side versus that side. So I think the, American left, right, how it's more jacked up here than other places, it's making Americans crazier, more divided. And also it's not just the left. I see the right falling into that same kind of, echo chamber where they don't even challenge their thoughts anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. I've thought about this so much, especially over the past 6 months in particular. I have noticed that, and I've commented on it publicly a few times, people on the right conservative side of the aisle displaying a lot of the same behaviors that made me very critical of the left for the past several years. This is ranging from victim mentality, to playing the identity politics game, you know, especially on the racial angle. I'm starting to see that a lot more coming from the right. You know, outright lying and, you know, putting out edited videos or dodgy narratives, things like that. Purity spiraling, you know, kind of falling into this trap of, you know, how people on, you know, the woke side, they're always trying to out woke each other, right? If one person is going that way, you know, they're always trying to outdo each other, and you're kind of getting this purity spiraling and the cancel culture type of stuff happening as well. And just the general anger and lack of joy, for lack of a better term. I'm someone who's optimistic, and I always think it's better to, you know, it's important to combat ideas you dislike, but I think it's more important to support and promote and tell the stories about the ideas that you think are better, right? And I think a big issue here is part of just due to the nature of the internet, both the algorithms and the incentive structure, it's easy to monetize just the outrage game, right? It's the same reason that the traditional media has gone to crap, right? Because they're just trying to post crazy headlines and stories to get people to click to get the ad revenue. But now a very easy way of content creation is to not really do any thinking, but just kind of keep pointing to the other side and saying, hey, look at this crazy thing, look at that crazy thing, look at that crazy thing, look at that crazy thing, instead of saying, hey, look, these are my values, here are my ideas, or even uplifting and supporting the people who are saying and creating the things that you'd like to see more in the world. And I've called this out a few times, and the typical answer actually is that, well, you know, the answer is literally, well, the other side are doing it, right? What are we supposed to do? Are we just supposed to, And, you know, while I understand that on a human level, it's kind of like, okay, so is the answer just to sink to the same level and start, you know, putting out lies and being disingenuous and putting words in people's mouths that they didn't really say, taking offense to things that you're not really, you know, some stuff is genuinely offended, but I'm also seeing people, you know, pretending to be offended by things. I'm like, bro, you're not really offended by that. You're just, you know, you're kind of feeding the outrage bait. And it does just overall, I'll tell you how I'm feeling. I'm just kind of feeling exhausted by it all. I think there's been this, especially from 2015, it's like 2015 to 2023, there's been this 8-year period of nonstop, right? Like nonstop jacked up culture war, you know, back and forth politics, just anger, rage. I'm just kind of tired of it. You know, I comment on stuff here and there, but I'm finding I don't have the same kind of will and desire to speak on so many things because it's just nonstop. And there aren't that many solutions being proposed. There's not much positivity. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know if you feel the same way. I just find that it's been like nonstop there's been no break for 7+ years now. And it's just tiring.
Yeah, you're not alone. I think it's with the COVID and the lockdowns and all that stuff, there was like okay, this is happening and this is what we want to happen. You know, we want our liberty back. Now it's almost sad because I think a lot of people that we would consider allies, whether we agreed on everything, you see how childish you're acting. You're like, you know what, maybe you really aren't that much different than the left. So it kind of takes the purpose out of like, half the people I thought I was fighting with are now trying to fight me over something that I don't even care that much about because I don't believe in it as much as them. You mentioned people posting videos where if I post a video and you say, hey, that's fake, and it literally is fake, I'll take it down because that's the integrity that I have. I'm not trying to share fake news. But like you said, you'll find some people that you can prove it's wrong. And instead of being like, well, even if my narrative might be right, that video is wrong, and take it down and take the L, they'll justify it because they just think their cause is so great that they can lie. And this happened the other day. I made a joke about it because some guy did something crazy, childish and stupid. And his answer was like, yeah, well, the left did it first. And I'm like, I poop in my panties because the left poops their pants. Like, that's why I pooped my pants. I'm like, are we in kindergarten? You're going to do something childish and stupid and fake because the other side that you don't like did it, so that's okay when you do it? Like,